Hey, what's up, Chicago? This is Monsters of the Madhouse, brought to you by Brand Tracks Hyatt. And right now we are live with a very special guest, Kaitlyn. And the very interesting story about us, we met at the tailgate and they were up there. She was up there. And basically, here is the brand. I'm going to pull it up for you guys really quick. That is the brand that she's a part of, American Cancer Society. So she had a very nice setup, a table, and all kinds of like fun gifts and stuff, and ways to like win. There was like a wheel, right, that you guys had, and they were doing all kinds of really cool stuff, and all the kinds of cool stuff that you want to see at a Chicago Bears tailgate for Timmy from the bus, Chicago Bears tailgating group at 2200 South Wabash and Cermak, right across the street from the White Castle. So so she pulled up, her team pulled up. They had given all kinds of crucial catch stuff away and all kinds of swag and really cool stuff. I had this hat. I brought this up there because of a very special memory of mine. Every year I try to make sure I get one of the Bears hats. So in honor and behalf of the Crucial Catch project that the Bears put on, I wanted to bring Kaitlyn up here because our paths crossed during that tailgate, which was a whole lot of fun. We did a little quick impromptu video, hit it off really well. We're starting to partner up with some really cool stuff. We'll get into the Taste of Hope later on in the show. So, but anyways, I just want to introduce Kaitlyn really quick. Kaitlyn, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Brandon. I'm doing well. Super happy to be here with you, with our listeners. Hey, everybody.
So, really quick, Kaitlyn is a Previvor. So, could you tell us what it means to be a Previvor?
Yes. So thank you for the opportunity to do so. So being a Previvor can mean different things to different folks. And so just to me, it means that I'm basically surviving a predisposition of cancer that I, have an increased risk for because of my genetic risk. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But my personal piece of being a Previvor means that I've chosen to take preventive measures. And again, that can mean something different to a lot of different people. So we'll get into all the nuts and bolts, but just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And thanks for the opportunity to share what that means to me.
Yeah, and it's interesting what she's saying right now as far as preventive. I mean, that's really important, and we'll get into that later on as to ways that you can be preventive that we may not know that's out there. And that's what's great about this outreach that we're partnering up and getting ready to do, is because a lot of times we don't, with our busy schedules and everything we got going on, and Bears games and tailgates and all that really fun stuff. We think about, and work, there's always work, but, it just, we get so busy that the last thing that we want to do is go be preventive about it. But when it gets down to it, it's very important to do, to look into. And the thing that I could say the most that I appreciate about this is the outreach and educating and all that stuff. So I'm really excited to partner with you, Kaitlyn, and get this information out there. And not to force feed you folks. We're still going to talk some Bears and Chicago sports and all this kind of stuff. But, again, the whole background of how this all originated and started with Kaitlyn and I was at a Bears tailgate. So it's legit. It's real. So anyways, what is this breast cancer screening, and why is it important? And in most cases, what is that all about?
Well, we'll get right into it. So breast cancer screening is a recommended guideline, essentially, that the government puts in place for different people of different age groups, like they do for lots of different kind of cancers and other preventive measures. And so what they tell us is that women over the age of 40 should get a mammogram to detect any, anything that shows up that it shouldn't look like on their mammogram. And so that's essentially the main kind of breast cancer screening that women have. There's other types of screenings too. Once I kind of get into a little bit more about my history, I actually had to undergo several different types of screenings, including MRIs and ultrasounds, because of my higher risk for cancer and the age that my mom was at her diagnosis, which was very young. So it can mean, again, different things for different folks, but having a really good relationship with our provider is important, and the providers following those recommended guidelines is equally as important, being routine and following up. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's the way to go instead of just, waiting. And why do you think that is? Why do you think some people are a little reluctant to go out there and check it out? I mean, what have you heard talking to people why they're a little hesitant in doing this pre-screening?
Well, just like I shared at the beginning, like my definition of being a Previvor is personal. My story is personal to me, just like everyone else's is, and their reasons are personal. But the way I've kind of approached my mindset around it is, cancer's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. My mom was diagnosed young, my aunt, people around me. And so I kind of understood from a young age that it's prevalent, and I believe that knowledge is power. And so, being able to be proactive is important to me. But on the other hand, a lot of people are really scared of it. Maybe they have been around it and it's done the opposite to them. It's made them fearful for a lot of really valid reasons. So that's one reason people wait. There's also a lot of barriers that people have to getting screening, even though, breast cancer screening is really pretty accessible. There are barriers people have to getting there. So there's a lot of reasons, but that's why we do the outreach. Like you said, we're all human. We're all at risk for something or another. And so the more information we can get out there, the more informed we can be about the choices we make and how we make them and when we make them. So,
yeah, and I think also a part of it too is just not knowing that the information's out there and educating. There's so much more out there than there was in years past, and that's why this is really good. And I'm excited to move forward. We have some people in the chat, and we're really excited about that. One, Sophia says, so excited to be here to listen and so proud of you for sharing your story today.
Big shout out to my bestie, Sophia. She's part of my fan club. Welcome to the show. Thank you, Sophia, for being here. She knows just how important it is that we, share our stories and use our voices to do so. So, really appreciate the support there.
What is how common is breast cancer, and what are the typical survivor rates if detected early versus late?
Yeah, so overall, the risk of a woman developing breast cancer is about 1 in 8. But when you dive into certain communities or folks of higher genetic risk, like myself, the risk becomes a lot higher. But of course, we've made tons of advancements with breast cancer in the way of innovation and research, and really increased our survival rate exponentially, which is really awesome. Now we still have a lot of work to do in areas of metastatic breast cancer and living with MBC, and of course, research and being able to access high quality therapy early on and in a high quality manner. So, it just kind of depends which community you're talking about. But of course, the earlier we detect it, the higher our likelihood is to survive it for sure.
Yeah, and you know, the earlier the better, and that's with everything. And I'm learning right now, just partnering with you, and you know, going over our notes, and you know, bouncing back and forth. And really quickly, Ant Mass watches our show all the time. He's a very valued member, listener. A lot of good input from him as far as you know on the Chicago Bears side. But he's saying right now, "Hey, Trax," that's my nickname, by the way. I have two little daughters, and knowledge is power. So this is reaching him at where he's at. So this is great. Um, who is the highest risk for development of breast cancer?
Well, going back to that other question, you know, there are certain communities that have a higher risk for whatever reason,
Yeah,
particularly women of color and Black women, and then people of genetic disposition like myself. I carry the BRCA1 gene mutation, and
yeah,
so my risk for developing cancer was like 88, upwards of 80 or more percent. So it just depends on which community we're talking about in particular. And obviously, the more research we do, the more we learn about the different types of cancer that we see developing in younger women. And there's just so many, so many.
yeah. And it seems like you really can't figure out what makes you know. For me, I have no idea. Like you just can't look at somebody and say, "Oh, well, they just caught something," or they just, you know what I mean? It's like that's why the screening is so important. So, I mean, you have some things like you said, genetic disposition. Is that how you said it right? Or potentially, you know, whatever your ethnic background is and all that. But that still doesn't like if you're not a part of those two groups, that still doesn't mean that you're clear, that you still have to go get checked out, right, Kaitlyn? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, definitely. And, we talk about, the importance of doing self breast exams, but not only for us women, but just for all of us, knowing our bodies and really,
Yeah.
doing head to toe assessments regularly in the shower and whatnot, just to be able to monitor for any changes. But then there's also the issue that many of us women deal with, which is dense breasts, breast density. And, it's got its own code now, even that our providers can add to our chart to be able to order different kind of tests and more testing just to make sure that it's thorough. So all of these are, as we learn more and pass new laws and coverage, it's really important that we do this kind of outreach to let people know to ask the questions, to make sure that they're getting the right test for them based on their own risk, regardless of their age, but more, their family history and other risk factors. So.
Yeah. So what type of screening tests are available for breast cancer, and how do they work?
Oh, so typically women get a mammogram, which is nowadays most of the time they've come a long way since I started getting them way back when. But they're usually 3D mammography machines, we call them, and it's just like a big camera on wheels, essentially, if I had to describe it. And
Is it painful or uncomfortable, or is it
when most of us would probably describe it maybe as like a pinch, but trust
okay?
me, we've been through much worse. So it's definitely worth the pinch or squeeze, whatever however you describe it for 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And then it's done and over with. Like the leading up to it's always the worst part, like
Yeah,
anything.
I remember my mom. I was a conversation that I was not, and she started doing these, and I was a little one, and she was talking to her girlfriend. She was over, and I was just like, oh my god. And they were talking about like a sandwich and like a
Yeah.
metal. That like back in the day was like way different. So I'm glad to hear
Ouch.
that it's better.
Yeah. Yes, to eliminate any fear, most of the newer technology, newer machines are much kinder to us. So there's been a lot of improvements. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's still worth it, in my opinion, regardless, just to go and
Right.
do the things, get things checked out for yourselves. We're terrible about doing self-care and caring for ourselves, but it's because we want to show up for others. And if we want to show up for others, we gotta show up for us too. So
Amen to that, for sure. Yeah, you got so much hats to wear and so many things to do that, the last thing that you do is check on yourself. And if you're not there for yourself, you can't be there for anyone else, right, Kaitlyn?
that's right, for sure.
So at what age should people start getting screened, and how often should screening get done?
So women at average risk, we say, get screened starting at 40, and their provider would make that order. And then it's typically every 2 years unless there's abnormal findings that require follow-up. But
Okay.
yeah.
So that's basically it. It's not very difficult. That sounds very simple to follow those guidelines. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Like I always say, all of the cancer screenings are pretty painless in the grand scheme of things, worth it. It's just most important to have that conversation with your provider and be honest about the history, in your family, be honest about your lifestyle factors so that we can, take good care of ourselves. And if something's going on, we want to find it early, right? It's much easier that way. So
What are the screening eligibility criteria for breast cancer screening?
well, I think we covered that one.
Yeah, I feel like we did too.
But women of 40 typically go and get their mammogram every couple of years.
Yeah. What is the 40? It feels like everything 40 and on is like, the check engine light comes on. You know what I mean? Even for like other things, they're just like 40. 40 is the magic number, My buddy, he's in like his 50s and he goes, it's not a warning anymore. It's like, get your butt into the shop, get your car into the shop now and get, you
before the warning signs start coming on.
Yeah. He's like, when you look at the instrument, like the instrument of the car and everything's lit up like a Christmas tree. He goes, that's what 50 is like. Everything hits you all at once. I'm like, great. Thanks for letting me know. Right now, I'm freaking out when I just see like the other day, Kaitlyn, I get in my vehicle. And most cars have aluminum wheels, right? So when that happens and the temperature drops in Chicagoland, that you lose tire pressure, because everything starts to shrink. So you have to put a few more pounds of pressure. And that thing like just was like I was going bug nuts over it. I'm like, I gotta go get air. I gotta get this thing off my screen. But when he was telling me like when you get that age, it's just like get in there fast. And it kind of helps me like put things into perspective. You know what I mean? It's serious and it's real, but it's kind of fun to, joke about too, so.
We got to find the humor in these things. I swear I say sometimes with my situation, my modesty went right out the window. If childbirth wasn't enough, because you just, you just have to become vulnerable sometimes, and that's okay. Because if that's what it takes to get these things done, then that's what it takes. But 40 is not necessarily a magic number by any means. It's a number that, that the research at the time showed, was the valid and recommended age based on data available. Now, with all of the advancements in research and technology, we've, continue to have the conversation, I think, about the best way to screen and care for all people based on their individual risk, right?
Right.
My mom was 32 she was in her early 30s when she was diagnosed. So she wouldn't have been eligible to get a mammogram yet. So
For sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's and I'm glad that everything's being more current and there's a lot of things, people are there's more research and things are so much more updated and that's good. So that increases, everybody's chance for surviving. And like Dan says in the chat, he goes, I don't know any person who hasn't had breast cancer affect their family, male or female. And that's a good point. Males can be affected also. So that's, and for us, we just don't think of it, as far as guys do, and so if you could speak a little bit on that too, that'd be good. About the male breast cancer also.
Yep. It's once you kind of start diving into those unique situations, a lot of times you find genetic, mutations going on. And so in those cases, it's unfortunate because, they're another group that wouldn't, go get a mammogram. And so a lot of times it's, spontaneous when it's found. But once you kind of dive in deeper, it's really important to understand what risk the other people in your family might also be carrying unknowingly, because sometimes male breast cancer comes with a lot of genetic stuff.
And as for a male, would that just be like simply like being in the shower or something and then just finding a lump on your chest or something like that? Would that be the first warning sign to follow up on that?
Yep, definitely. Yeah, any sort of misshapen changes to skin around your nipple, anything funky going on out of the normal is definitely something to ask your provider about.
What are the lifestyle factors that could increase the risk of breast cancer for people?
Well, it's pretty much the same across the board, right? All cancer types, maybe a little bit more so for breast than others or for lung than others. But the main things that we can do to prevent cancer in general are, of course, to avoid tobacco as much as possible. And, the American Cancer Society does have a lot of resources for that, for when folks are ready. And then, of course, the more we learn about what we consume and how it's linked to cancer, the more we find out every day. My good friend, plant-based nurse Jamie, is definitely a proponent of a plant-based diet to avoid cancer risk. In particular, we're finding more links between high dairy consumption and higher incidence of breast cancer, especially in certain communities. And so, I again just think it's really important for people to do their own research and make their own really informed decisions with their provider based on their priorities, right? And what's important to them. But we all should exercise for a lot of reasons, not only for our physical health, but our mental health. And we, I'm a big proponent of gut health being good for our mental health. There's science there. So, I really believe that in a lot of ways we are what we eat, and we just do our best,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and getting into all of that, there was one of the healthiest men that ever wore a Chicago Bear uniform, and he battled and lost his battle to cancer, and that was Walter Payton, Hall of Famer, and he passed away in 1999 at the age of only 45, and it was very rare complication. I talked to his brother, lives down there in Mississippi, Eddie, and he just, it was unbelievable. I mean, he thought his younger brother could, this guy could do anything he wanted to do, he could do. And this is one of those things where you can't put a pin in it and say that, oh, never. And it happened, and very unfortunate. It's PSC, I believe, is the name of what he passed away from, primary sclerosis, cholangitis, or something like that. So another one is Brian Piccolo. We're all familiar with Brian Piccolo, and that was a running back from the Bears. Bob Avellini just recently passed away. He died from cancer at the age of 70. Darren Lewis, 56, or no, 55. He also played for Texas A&M, and then Sean Coleman. So, and there's a lot of outreach too that the Bears do for cancer. You know, the Crucial Catch is the most recent, and one of them. There's a lot of support and whatnot. Real Bears fans wear pink. That's one of them that they have. The team draft, the Piccolo Fund, so many others. So I'm really glad that the team that we love and support has those outreaches out there, and that's really good for that locally. So what does that mean to you, Kaitlyn, when you see a team like that partner up? And I know other teams. I think you're telling me the Blackhawks, Illinois University.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it comes to things like lung cancer, with any cancer, anybody with lungs can get lung cancer, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate Lung Cancer Awareness Month next month.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to, our friend Chris Draft, international lung cancer advocate and Chicago Bear. Right. And Amos Albert with Operation Warrior Wishes. And that leads us to these conversations, that it's so prevalent, and that's why the Chicago Bears care so much, and why you care, and why I care, and what brings us together, right? But the outreach piece is how we work together to end cancer as we know it, which is what the American Cancer Society likes to say, and that's what we work towards every single day. So that, we use their stories, and I hesitate to use that word sometimes, but we celebrate their stories to elevate the work that we're doing and talk about the work that still needs to be done with urgency, which is what we say, and that's how we have to move and act. So I guess that's what I would say it means to me to hear those stories and the way that we honor their lives.
Yeah, for sure. What about like the genetic or environmental factors that people should be aware of? The environments. What is it about the environments that people in that could put them at risk?
Sure. So there's a lot of things in our environment that increase our risk for developing cancer, and one way that we can avoid it, I'll just say, is to wear a mask and unapologetically. Like, if you want to wear a mask to protect yourself, just do that. Because what we have seen over the last few years is that our air quality is not going in the right direction, right? Especially in Chicagoland and across everywhere. Our air quality is not getting better. So there's reasons for that, whether it be workplace exposures. We are seeing that when it comes to lung cancer anyways, we're having a higher increase of incidence, which means more women, incidence means more cancer. So we're seeing a raise in women getting it. And that's probably because of the, amount of time we're spending around cooking and cleaning chemicals, especially in some communities where we're seeing those disparities. So, exposures can be from toxins in a cornfield and chemicals, or they can be from our work environment, and if we work in industrial situations. And then, one that I could go on and on about is radon exposure, because there's a lot of exposure happening around us with not a lot of policy or, we're starting to have more conversation, but not enough probably for the amount of radon risk we have around us. And it's personal to me, having lived in a house that had to be mitigated, and kind of the fight that I had to get it done was a little bit, unfortunate, because I don't think a lot of people have access to that same kind of information or ability to get it done. So, those are a couple of the different environmental factors. And then, of course, there's genetic risk for all kinds of things, including all kinds of cancers. And so when families start to see patterns or unusual things, it's important to have those conversations. We don't want to keep secrets in our families.
Yeah, and I work at a steel mill. I work at a steel mill, and that's definitely something that we look at, wearing respirators and all that stuff and being careful around carcinogens and whatnot. So I'm glad you brought the environmental up, because that's important and real. So thank you for that, for sure.
And we should hold each other accountable to, being cautious and, caring about our exposures for ourselves and each other. So I'm happy to hear it's a priority.
Yeah, and just a little, this show alone, even for myself, is not only educating me, but like kind of like keeping me more aware. And sometimes we have it on the back burner, and even though we're aware of it, now when you go back out there to the workforce, you're, protecting yourself even more from the environmentals and doing what you can to do a little extra, so thank you so much for this, and we're gonna continue on. We just have a few more questions for you, if you don't mind.
I'm here for it.
All right, cool. Let's go. So, are there any risks or side effects associated with the breast cancer screening at all?
No, not necessarily. I would say that since I was outside the screening age, the biggest side effect for me has been financial. But that's kind of another topic. But like I said earlier, the mammogram itself might pinch or squeeze for a few minutes. If you have to have an MRI, sometimes people get anxiety with tests, which is understandable, especially when it's your first time or two. But, being prepared and maybe watching YouTube videos ahead of time, things like that can kind of help with that. And outside of those side effects, like I said, as women, we've been through worse, for sure.
Yeah. And now that you bring that up, is like, as far as like accessibility with the screening, what should people do if they can't afford it or they don't have insurance? I mean, that is one of the most real questions that I have to ask you, because that is real, and that's also quite possibly a reason why some people just don't want to get out there and do it. Is just they just can't flat out afford it. Kaitlyn, you know what I mean?
It absolutely is. It's very real. We call it financial toxicity, as whether it's prevention or, treatments that, the cost of the care is sometimes too much of a burden to bear. So the good news is there are programs locally that can support out-of-pocket screening costs, or people that are what we call underinsured, which means they don't have great insurance or coverage. And folks need to typically visit their health department for help in locating those resources, and of course visiting cancer.org to locate a screening center. And sometimes those screening centers have programs in place or certain days that they'll offer, free or reduced screens.
That's awesome. So that's good to know that there's some free stuff out there that people can take advantage of, and that's great to hear. So hopefully, if anybody's listening out there and they have that anxiety earlier that Kaitlyn was talking about, now you know that there's ways to get out there and get this taken care of. It's really important. Are there any new advancements in breast cancer screening technologies or early detection methods that our listeners you could share with us?
Yeah. You reminded us of your mom's experience, many years back. And actually, I probably had a mammogram or two early on in my journey of those kinds. And I'll say those have come a long way. So we call them like 3D mammography machines now. And those have certainly improved the experience. And then, we've seen tons of advancements in treatment, which is amazing. And that's why we are seeing higher survival rates in breast cancer. And we have seen advancements in, of course, genetic testing. But that's why we continue to raise money for these advancements. We're going to talk about Taste of Hope, the American Cancer Society's upcoming premier event.
And
I'm
excited
that
about that.
event is to, raise money and promote the importance of cancer research.
I want to give a quick thank you for sharing that about the research. Debbie Tuttle, she's Honey Bear. She was I think you met her at the tailgate. She was at the tailgate when we were there. She said that so many friends have died from breast cancer, and she says that you are brave and courageous. So also she said she gets a mammogram every year and self examination, and she does self-examinations and gets a mammogram yearly. So she wanted to share that with you and the listeners. So
Debbie, thank you. Way to be proactive and caring for yourself and being the example for your loved ones to see too.
So getting back to the listeners and advocation, how can listeners advocate for better access to screening in their communities?
I always like to say, be the change you want to see. So,
I like that. That's good.
Depending on what, your local situation is, there's a lot of different ways to get involved. So the American Cancer Society has a sister organization called the Cancer Action Network, and that website is fightcancer.org. And you can pull up local activities and local, policies that our legislators are working on. And ACS Can makes it really easy, like with the click of a button, to send an email. And I tell you, every one of those emails that our legislators receive are counted when they go to make decisions on bills. Okay. So that's a great free way for anybody to get involved in terms of, sharing their voice from wherever you are. And then, of course, the American Cancer Society has lots of events locally in various communities. And that's another great way for folks to get involved and build community with others who are there for similar reasons, which ultimately, ends up improving things because people work together on issues they care about. So those are a couple of examples. Of course, the American Cancer Society is always looking for volunteers for various programs. And for breast cancer in particular, we have Reach to Recovery, which is a volunteer mentor program for folks who have experienced breast cancer and maybe people facing breast cancer now. And it's all done through an app. So that's free through the American Cancer Society and cancer.org. It's called Reach to Recovery. Just another way to be supportive and, and get involved, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, if anybody's interested in helping us out when we partner together and do things, we'd like to bring you out when we can, obviously, or on the podcast. If there's anything you want to share personally, listeners, and you can contact Kaitlyn or myself, and we'll try to work in one of the shows because it's real important, this outreach, that we all not only be a voice but hear voices too. So we'd love to hear from you, or just inbox us if you don't want to be on the screen and you just want to inbox us and talk to us personally about something that you're going through. And I don't have all the answers because I'm just getting started, but I do know some people, especially to the right of me, that have a few answers. So, and I just want to put a pin in this really quick. We got just a few more questions. I know I've been saying that the whole show, but I want to talk a little bit personally about my experience and why this is so important to me. So at the age of 3, I was adopted, and my mom, she basically became my mother and my father. She had a lot on her plate, not just with me, but my brothers, sisters. and it was a lot going on. In 2009, she lost her battle with cancer. And I said if I ever had a platform or a way to help people out, that I would use it. And so right now it's just, put up or shut up time. And at the most, I would have never thought in a million years that I would run into a situation like I did at the tailgate. And once I saw it in front of me, and I saw how good Kaitlyn was quickly to answer the bell, to get behind and do a few shots, because we had like a motorcycle running through the tailgate, and a DJ that was rocking some music, and that's all good, I mean, that's what a tailgate is. That's what they do. But I mean, we made it work, and we put out a video and stuff, and I was like, she's good. We might be able to do something here and get some outreach going. So very, very blessed and grateful to be a part of this. And this is a way that I'm honoring my mother and just doing the best I can to help others. So that way, they have some information, some knowledge, and an ear, and any resource. Hopefully we can use this platform to reach, people and stuff. So yeah, that's my personal story. So let's see here. What advice? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say thanks for sharing. I know sometimes it's hard to share, but I think it's important we talk about these things. And I think that you're doing an amazing job, honoring your mom.
Thank you. So, and I know you're gonna help me, get better at all this, because all this information that you got is like Greek. Like a lot of it, most of it makes sense, but there's definitely some things in there, like all of the resources and everybody. It's a lot right now, but the good news is this won't be our last time. So thank God for that, because if I had to remember all this stuff off one show, I'd be in trouble, right? What advice do you have for someone who's unsure about whether they should get screened for breast cancer?
First decide what you want to do. I think it's personal, so I'm not here to necessarily tell folks what to do, but I think that once you know that, be proactive, stick to your goals. I think what's really important is that we, like I mentioned earlier, having a good relationship with our primary care doctor for so many reasons, including cancer screening. And then, I try to tell people YOLO, right? Like we're only here once. So I try not to make my choices based in fear, right? Like I try to do my own research. I try to feel really confident in my choices. Sometimes to do that, it takes preparation, right? So maybe you're not ready today, but maybe you'll be ready soon, and you can talk with friends or loved ones or go to YouTube University or whatever it is that you need to do. But at the end of the day, if your goal is to live your best life, then how are you going to do that? For me, it was using the knowledge that I had to be proactive, which kind of forced me into a different lifestyle, and then it led us here, right? Got to meet you, Brandon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to give everybody a quick shout out, and Sophia gave a good reminder to do that. We've got over 100 people in the chat. You guys are very active, sharing. Sophia says grateful for everyone sharing their experiences and the support shown tonight. And she got a little bear and a heart, and we want to know how she's doing those cool things with the emojis and stuff, because I need to get my game up on that when I'm consuming other people's podcasts. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now, that's being a part. And I know there's a couple other people out there that probably want to inch up to the plate and put a little something out there. And that's okay if you just want to listen right now. We're just glad that you guys are here and a part of this, and it's all good. She says, this girl lost. She says, my kid teaches me. That's true. They all teach us stuff about all this technology and whatever. So yeah. Okay. And then Kaitlyn, you just put www.cancer.org. So that's cool. So let's get back to this real quick. Almost done. 2 more questions. How can people support loved ones who may be at risk for lung cancer or who are undergoing screening?
Good question. So I think there's a lot of ways, right? Screening is a big choice sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. So just talking through them or through that decision with them, I think, for starters. But then, just maybe sharing a personal experience or offering to like do some role play to ease any anxieties. Like, hey, I'll play doc. You ask your questions, or let's make a list.
Yeah.
But just it's always nice to have a fan club. Just be like, hey, did you make that appointment? I do. The holidays are coming. I always love to make cancer screenings conversation starters because why not? So take advantage of the time that you're together and make sure everybody's checking in on their health.
Yeah, those are all good points, and I like all of the support and things that everything that she was talking about right now, listeners. It's all about support and being together as a group, not feeling like you're alone and you're doing this by yourself, because secluding yourself and feeling you're in isolation, you're not. Just like Dan said earlier in the chat, who's one of my co-hosts, and we do live shows together. He says, I don't know any person who hasn't had breast cancer affect their family, male or female. And this goes beyond breast cancer too. This is just cancer in general, focusing on breast cancer right now. But like he said, it all touches us and reaches us somehow, so the main thing is you have support, like Kaitlyn was talking about, so many different things to do, providing meals, gift cards, sending cards in the mail. Those are real important, just letting people know that you care, because when you get that a little bit extra support, that's what people need to keep fighting and keep working and, thriving and surviving and all that good stuff. So this is really good stuff. What can you tell us? Well, let me put it up here really quick. There we go. What can you tell us about American Cancer Society's effort to raise money for more research?
Yeah, so American Cancer Society is one of the largest cancer research organizations. And so a lot of what we do is raise money to fund this research. It's groundbreaking. And specifically in Chicago, there's an event coming up called the Taste of Chicago. And I just tried posting a link in the chat, Brandon, but it's not working.
Sorry.
But it's an amazing opportunity to sip, dine, and network with some of Chicago's most premier folks, and it'll be a wonderful night on Navy Pier, at Navy Pier. Just trying some of the best brands for local food and beverage, and so tickets are still available. I was trying to get that link pulled up, but I'm going to be there. Brandon's going to be there.
Yes, I'm excited. Got to dust off my dress clothes.
Heck yeah. Maybe bust out your pink shoes.
Yeah. Oh, I should have uploaded those. I'm so proud of them. So quick story about those. My son, he loves these shoes. They're like in all the soccer players. They love like the bright, vibrant colors, and it's just like this just powerful pink, and one of his buddies, he was like, hey, why are you wearing pink shoes? And I was like, because he likes them. And then he just kind of looked at him and looked at me and just kind of went off with the ball, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get on No Bull and I'm gonna order some shoes, because now I'm gonna support him with what he wants to wear, And so, yeah, next practice, next game, Dad came in his shoes. And that is slightly shortly after that, the head coach she's got an army of kids and so much going on. She came up to me and another dad and was like, hey, if you guys ever want to help out, we're like, sweet. She tagged us in. We finally get to help. And, because you don't want to step on her toes or anything. But now I'm wearing my pink shoes as a coach. So it was cool. But anyways, yeah, pink shoes.
It's Pinktober. I love it. I wore my pink tonight.
Yeah. There we go. She got the link up, everybody. Check it out. Come hang out with us. Come hang out with Chicago Sports Podcast. And Kaitlyn's now a part of Chicago Sports Podcast. So we're really excited, and just hang out with us, have a good time, have some good food, and learn about everything that we've been talking about and stuff. And yeah, hang out with Kaitlyn and I and everybody else that's there. Is there anything else that we didn't is there something else we should touch upon, or anything you can think of? Or
I think we rocked it out, Brandon. I'm happy to answer questions if folks have questions they want to drop in the chat while we hang for a few. But
I got a Bears question for you, if you don't mind.
Please, let's do that.
So listen, what do you think about this year? Like, are you excited about this year, or what? I mean, the new quarterback and everything that's going on. We're 4-2 coming out of London. I mean, what's your vibe and feel about this year's Bears?
I mean, this is the year we've been waiting for, right? Like,
yeah.
I couldn't be more excited or optimistic. We were, hoping for this year last year, I think, right? And so we were building, and it was new. We just kept this, like, the anticipation. We kept saying, oh, next year, and it's here. And we are on fire, and I'm so proud of them. I just love the energy, I loved being with hanging with you all at the tailgate. It was Crucial Catch Sunday.
Yeah.
That was a great way for me to break the season in. I hadn't been to a tailgate in years, probably since like 2018 or 19. So it was just a great way for me to like this year, we're just on fire, right? Like, it's so much awesome energy.
Yeah.
I have a big screen. It's fun to watch on my big screen. Caleb up there just rocking it out. So definitely optimistic.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good feels to it this year for sure. And there's been so many years where it's been rough, but now it's at least we're competing and things look good. And yeah, I'm excited for it too. I'm excited you're excited for sure. So there are some talks about some trades. They're talking about Khalil Herbert possibly and Robinson, who's an edge rusher. I think that they might be shopping those to get to bolster that offensive line. You know what I mean? The people have been wanting another edge rusher, and rightfully so. I think we have got a good edge rush by committee. I understand, or just rush in general. But for me, it's protecting Caleb and making sure that guy stays safe and upright. I mean, right now it's short of malpractice to not try to at least look at that. I mean, the first thing that you do when you get something very nice like a car or a home is you go get that insurance, right, to protect you from mayhem. And I just feel like it's time to get a little bit more help there. So I'm hoping if they ship one of those guys off, that's what they end up getting. I mean, do you agree with that, or is there something else that you'd like to see if they ship one of those guys off in a trade before the trade deadline?
No, I agree with you. We can't compromise anything we've got going for us. So
yeah. He's great, isn't he? Isn't he so fun?
So fun to watch. Yeah, he really is, Jinx. It's all around good. I love his nails, so I love it all. Like, I love the vibe. I love the energy we have going for us. Definitely excited to take it straight to the W. What?
Yeah. Would you say that he's your favorite player right now on the Bears, or?
Currently, yeah, I like the energy that he's brought to the team for sure. But it's hard for me to pick favorites, but yeah.
Yeah. Who's your all-time favorite, would you say?
Oh, I mean, I gotta say Chris Draft, right? That's how we all
Yeah,
got
there you
here.
go.
Yeah.
Shout
Yeah.
out,
All
Chris. I know
time.
you'll be watching, buddy. I know you're watching.
Yeah, I have. Yes, of course. Favorite all-time Chicago Bears, Chris. I will say my first bear that I met was Akeem Hicks, number 96 also.
Oh, you met
Yeah.
him? That is so cool.
So I'm 5'1", and he was what, like 6'8", I think. I don't know. We have this picture. Shout out to Jenna, my fellow Bestie Bears fan. So that was fun. But yeah, outside of those, it's probably hard for me to pick favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, just by committee, you like them all. But yeah, I could see Draft for sure. Just what he does and who he is and everything. He's so awesome. He's such a good guy.
Yep.
He's actually at a Falcons reception. That was going to be my surprise for you. He was going to try to pull it off and at least step out and get on really quick so I could surprise you, but it didn't happen. So I had to bring it up now. So.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Big shout out though. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
you gave him a few and you gave Amos a few. So they're going to be really appreciative, and that's very thoughtful for you to do that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important. So I lead, a group, right, of amazing people I work with the American Cancer Society. And when we all come together like this, without Chris, I wouldn't have met Amos. And without Amos, I wouldn't have met, Pat and gotten connected to the tail greeter group. And Tim Shanley, and then you, right? And so like when we bring all these people together, when we're able to share our information and our resources, we all win, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's important to give those shout outs. It's important to recognize how well we work together, and the impact we're able to make together. And yes, of course, bear down.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so supportive this year too, to all of our efforts. And we were able to, celebrate survivorship this summer at a training camp, their community's partners event. So big shout out to the Chicago Bears too.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
They do a lot. Seriously, I'm just so dumbfounded on how much there is actually going on and you know what? Why would we know unless we know? And we're learning right now. I mean, this is a lot for sure. They got a lot going on. Mm-hmm. So Debbie Tuttle says Tim Shanley is the best tailgater. He does put on a really good show, and everybody that's a part of it and everything. And let me say to you, I did not get a taste of one of those cookies because I wanted to make sure that all the people that came up that were there, to learn about you guys and be a part of all that, wanted to make sure they got a cookie, because I felt like if I ate one of those really tasty designer cookies, I might have grabbed two.
You should have, Brandon. I didn't get one either, so I assume they were really good though.
Didn't they look good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a link for our friends to see Tim at the tailgate. But it was pretty awesome. Tim actually shared that day that, his family was impacted by lung cancer. And we were promoting lung cancer screening and awareness at that Crucial Catch game. So we were able to present him with a white ribbon in honor of her. And it was really special to have everybody together that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was for sure. And man, that is something that I didn't personally know about Tim. And back to what, Dan was saying, we're all some way affected by it, Yeah, so we got the taste coming up. Is there any other events or anything that's going on that you want to share with the listeners about?
Well, yes, I'm going to give a shameless plug for National Lung Cancer Screening Day. So if anybody is eligible for lung cancer screening, we are celebrating that far and wide Saturday, November 9th. And folks who have been smokers in the past and are over the 50 or over should go ahead and get a lung screen. And of course, it's Pinktober, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So just another shameless plug that if you're a woman and you're 40 or over, it's time to start thinking about those mammograms. But yeah, National Lung Cancer Screening Day. For some reason, the chat's not letting me post links, Brandon, but I'll drop those in there.
Oh,
And
yeah, I don't know
anybody
that.
can register for National Lung Cancer Screening Day to help us get the word out.
Yeah.
But really important. It's also a quick and painless test, and it's free for those that are eligible. So definitely important to get that done. And I'm gonna get that in there.
And she's going to be posting a lot of stuff in our group and on my personal page, folks, of all the things that are going on and information and whatnot. So just because you're not catching it in here doesn't mean, and there's going to be a lot of updated stuff. She'll keep you updated with everything going on. She's a boss. She's got a lot. I mean, this lady is a trooper. She's a worker and a grinder. So
Oh, you're too kind, Brandon.
got all the faith in the world that she's going to keep us all caught up and updated and whatnot. So what about our next show? Could you tell anybody about what our next show, if we may or may not have a special guest or anything going on, and what that time frame may look like?
Absolutely. So I think we got a couple things in the works. Really excited. One thing that Brandon invited us back to talk about is the American Cancer Society's free rideshare program, which is for people facing cancer and treatment. And so the American Cancer Society has a Road to Recovery program, always looking for more volunteer drivers and always looking for folks to help us increase awareness of that program. So patients aren't, skipping appointments and such just for the simple reason that they can't get there. So excited to bring my colleague Emmanuel on the show for that.
Yeah.
And of course, we're excited to have you with the Taste of Hope, which will have some coverage there. We've got some amazing Chicago restaurants and business owners that have really stepped up in a big way to provide a really amazing experience at that event. So I don't know, maybe we'll have some special guests as a follow-up from Taste of Hope.
There you go.
Yeah. And then in the future, I know we've talked about bringing our friends from the Lung Screening Network in and talking about Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Again, November, Lung Cancer Awareness Month, something that's very close to my heart. So happy to be back then and bring our friends in from the Lung Screening Network, who you had the chance to meet.
Yes. Yeah. Yep, for sure. That's going to be great. That's going to be a good time. There was a lot of energy with that group. They're a great group, and they got a lot done. They had a really cool table, guys. I wish you could have saw it, and hopefully they'll be in the future setting that up at the tailgate too, because that was super cool to see for sure. So yeah, I think that's about it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And everybody, thanks for being a part of the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast. That's how we keep it going for you guys. And it's free. There's no cost to subscribe. So yeah, just a little support, and we'll support you guys. Make sure that whenever you have anything in the chat, we always like to interact because we feel like you're a part of the show, and we want to have everybody, be a part of it and stuff. So yeah, we got shows pretty much every day of the week, and pretty soon, once Kaitlyn's crazy, wild schedule opens up a little bit, she's gonna have her own. We're gonna carve out a day that she picks, for her own outreach, her own show. I'll be on there too, of course, at times, and she'll have other people on there too, and we're still gonna partner up together, but definitely want to carve out something for her, exclusively. So, but that's pretty much what's going on. Let me see about any business. October 27th, next Sunday, I'll be up at Bridges Scoreboard for the Washington Commanders game. We're going to be giving away a 55-inch TV. They've got a lot of food and drink specials. I'll be up there with a pregame, half game, post game show, and all that kind of good stuff. November 3rd, we got James Big Cat Williams and quarterback Jim Miller from Sirius 88 radio. Satellite. He's going to be up there, and that's going to be great. They're going to be tag teaming it up there with me. We're going to be doing a pregame, game, post-game show. And then pretty soon after that, we've got Wendell Davis coming up there. And we've got a lot of good stuff coming up in the future. Some other really big names. So a lot of good stuff coming up at Bridges Scoreboard. We'll keep you updated on all that good stuff. So hope you guys have a good weekend. Hope all your favorite teams win. You enjoy all that good stuff. Spend time with your family and your loved ones. Hug them and make sure you spend some special time because the weekend is short. And so thanks again for tuning into us and sharing your evening with us. Have a good night.
Brandon, thanks for having me. Thanks for all the chat. Yep.
You're welcome. All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.